Well, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, I wanted to make this about a week or so ago, but I've been so busy cleaning up stuff. Now just getting to it, but yeah, Mr. I make noises in the front yard here, but oh no, they see me. But we're gonna walk through the side of the yard here. Oh, that's my new car there, race car. So, but as you all know, we had one heck of an ice storm come through here, and devastated a lot of people in my county. I think we made it on the news, being one of the worst counties affected. But a lot of people, there was a guy just yesterday, he didn't have power, he got power back after being without power for 2 weeks. Kind of insane to think about like that. But so it hit here pretty bad. I would say really bad. It knocked out all my fence lines. All my fence lines were down. I just pulled them trees out there, all that brush pile right there, that come from up there at that house. That one green tall tree right there. If I can get my finger, that one right there. It come from that one, and I pulled it down there with the tractor. And the pine tree here had a couple of limbs fall on the fence line, and those are those limbs right there. I can get over here, and my yard is just totally destroyed from coming through here with the tractor and everything. So it's real bad shape, real bad. But you see some of the debris here. But I got that all off my fence line here. It destroyed a couple of the insulators and stuff, so I gotta fix that. I think I'm just gonna put take that little fiberglass rod out and put a new fiberglass rod here, since I can't drive a T-post or anything. But it did some real bad damage to the trees and my fence lines, but above all, it did even more damage to my animals, and I'll get to that in a second here. So, but my apple tree had a couple limbs fall out of that, not too bad. My apple tree over here had a few limbs taken out of that. See a little pile, I just pushed that over there yesterday. Luckily I have some smaller trees to replace it, I guess, but I plan on ripping that tree out of the ground because it's growing all crooked and everything. It ain't doing too good. So it's really lost its productivity in the past couple years. So figured just cut it up, rip it out of the ground, and put a new one in its place. And here's some of the limbs here from it. But as you can see, my 100-year-old pecan tree, my great-grandmother, she planted this tree early 1900s, late 1800s, and she planted it from a simple little pecan, whichever one you call it. And they said that it would never grow, and if it did grow, it would never produce. Well, 100 years later, and it's producing, and it's growing. It grew. It started producing when it was 15, 20 years old, somewhere around there. But it's been producing ever since. Been getting a pretty good harvest off of it. But had some limbs. I had my homemade water line coming through there, and I have to take some of them limbs out. Used to be all them limbs used to be hanging down low over here. I ain't got no limbs no more. So unfortunately, I don't know how the summer's gonna go, but I used to love, sitting underneath this pecan tree during the hot summer days and having that nice cool shade. It shaded really good, but unfortunately all the older limbs are kind of dying out and the younger limbs are coming in. So maybe in a few years from now, younger limbs will grow on out and might restore it. But it has some pretty big limbs here, as you can see. Surprisingly, my two pear trees, they weren't affected. My walnut tree didn't get affected. See that tree got affected a little bit. You can see right on in there. Yeah, it's not too big of a deal. So, but as you can see, there's a whole lot of limbs. It was a whole lot worse. I went with the sawzall and the axe and chopped some of them limbs off and put them over there in that pile. They just got to be moved and burned now. So, but yeah, we'll go around to the other side of the yard here without Mr. Rooster trying to attack me. I'll beat the crap out of you. He knows it too. I ain't playing with him. So, yep, there he is, trying to attack me. Come on, go on somewhere. I ain't messing with you today. You attack me, I'm gonna hurt you. Look, man, I ain't playing. Go on. He's kind of pissed. So, here's the big old walnut tree in the backyard. This tree is about 80, 90 years old. And used to have two parts of it. Used to have this long branch coming off here. Used to have that long branch coming off there. And that back there in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, lightning struck this tree. Well, half of the tree, and it killed it. And this tree, half of the tree is still alive, surprisingly. So this tree probably needs to be cut down, but I made a promise to my great uncle I wouldn't cut it down until it fell down. So, but she's still going strong. She's still producing a pretty good amount of black walnuts every year. It's a black walnut tree. So I should specify that between a black walnut and an English walnut. So they taste a whole lot better, but the shells are hard as a rock. So, but had a couple limbs fall off of there. As you can see, I've cut them out with got the ladder and the sawzall and went up there and cut them out. But my cottonwood trees that are planting in the backyard here, you can tell they've seen better days. So, but they're still doing good. Real nice cottonwood. But I tell you, this one right now, I'm not really too sure what to do with this tree. I think because it's just so small, I might be able to dig underneath it and take the tractor and pull it on back up. But I have to experiment with that in the next few days or so when the sun comes out and dries the land up. But I had a massive limb fall off of here, and I had to take the sawzall and cut it. And that's that limb. No, it's over here. I put that limb right there. For the time being, he scared me a little bit there, kind of walking all up in the water like he did. But my next plan area is, once I get them buildings straight and everything and clean them out, I want to start working over here in the backyard a little bit. This old disc here, I want to get that thing up and out of here. It's all tangled in these cottonwood trees. I'm gonna have to cut them out of there or pull them up, one or the other, maybe transplant them somewhere else. But this whole thing, this tree right here grew up right on up through it. I have to take the sawzall and cut it down and rip it out of there. So not too sure how I'm gonna get the tractor in here and pull this disc one out. That's gonna be an interesting story when I do so. Say the easiest way would get rid of that junk right there and pull this disc from behind, but I'm not really too sure. But he's got a whole bunch of stuff over there I gotta get rid of. But yeah, these fence lines, they were destroyed beyond recognition. You couldn't even tell they were fence lines. These ones in the back here, they didn't get affected as bad, but these ones where the trees and stuff are, they just got tore up. As you can see, my old cedar tree, I had a limb fall off of that. Thank God it didn't land on that fence. So, but that tree needs a good pruning so it'll survive next few years. I don't think it's going to survive much longer if I don't get cutting some of them dead limbs off of there. But yeah, that's another major thing while I'm over here, before I go into uncharted territory. Had Southside Electric come out. I had a there's a line coming from way back there, and it comes to right here in the middle of this field, and it comes to that pole. There's a pole back there, and that pole comes a line off of here to the house in the yard, and you kind of see, if I can see that bird out there. I don't know if you can see him. Nah, camera. Oh, camera's kind of picking him up. You can kind of see like a little speck right there at the tip of my finger, a little black thing right there. That's a bird on that power line down there, and I'm not really too sure what happened, but get over here, you can see that power. You can see that telephone line. That pole there leaned, and that line going to the right, it snapped off in my neighbor's field. Well, when it did that, lost all that tension off that line, and all that tension was coming back, and that line sagged to the left, and it pulled down that line going straight from there all the way over to this other line here in the field, and that line landed on my fence, and I had my animals over here at the time, and all this is basically connected. And my first thought was, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Do I move them, or do I keep them in there? Because I'll tell you one thing, if I keep them in there, you know, what's going to happen? Are they going to get shocked? Because I know how far them lines could go, especially since it's on that barbed wire. That barbed wire go for miles around over here. It ties into this over here, this field. The electric line doesn't, but that barbed wire does. So I immediately took action. I moved my animals over to that field there. And in the doing so, most of them didn't have shelter right. And they couldn't get in the shelter. Because I had, for the ice storm and stuff, I split them off. I had half and half in both of them fields, so that way they can get underneath that shelter for that ice and all that rain and stuff, right? Well, when I did that, it was fine. But when I added these animals over there, I had animals sticking out underneath the shelter from getting rained and snowed on. And unfortunately, to have to say so, I lost a few. I lost more than I would like to have lost. It grew in one day. I come out there later that day, and it was about 8 that had froze to death. And I come back out there later that day. I talked to Southside Electric, was like, hey, I need somebody to come out here and fix this line if you're able to. Well, they come out, and they fixed it. So I was able to put my animals back over here and split them off. But by the time I realized that I'd done that, by the time I went to do that, it was already too late. I'd lost about 14 of them. And that's one heck of a number to lose there, 14 animals. But I guess it is what it is. I've been having a problem with them getting out and stuff now, because this line doesn't have electricity on there, because I got a downed power line, as you can see, coming through the yard, up through the trees and everything. They tell me it's a grounding line, so, but I don't know. So they had that electric line coming through there to that telephone line, and when they put power back on this field, that pole over there, when they were able to put power, because they had power coming from this back way, and they put power on that line going to that, my tree, I had a tree limb apparently had fallen on the line, and I was out here in the yard at the time talking to Miss Jones, one of the nurses that my great uncle had before he passed, and just sure enough, right there in the front yard talking to her, and this, all of a sudden I hear like sparks. I see sparks flying all over the place. I'm like, what's going on there? I look a little more, and all of a sudden there's a fire. The tree then caught on fire. So I knew something. I knew they had put power back on it. But unfortunately, they would have to turn it back off. So I ran out there as fast as I could and told them, like, hey, I got a tree limb that's tangled up in that line. You're gonna need to cut it off, or because it lit that tree on fire. And they were about to call fire department. They had fire department on speed dial when they come down here. And I got down here, and luckily that fire had gone out, and they were able to fix the problem. They ended up cutting this tree out of here, and unfortunately when they did so, unfortunately when they did that, we'll move on. The tree got hung up a little bit in the line, so about 200 pounds on that line, and try to move away from him. 200 pounds on that line, and apparently down the way, I wish I would have noticed it before, but it frayed. Well, you're going somewhere. Give me a second, let me deal with him. Alright, where was I before I was rudely interrupted by this bastard? Oh yeah, so when the tree fell on down on that line, it caused that line, and I wish I would have seen it before they left, but it caused that line to fray. And I noticed it when I come out here with the tractor, come out from over there with the tractor. I noticed that line had frayed looking up at it, and I called them and told them, it's like, hey, my line is hanging by, it's held together by a thread. I'm going to need somebody to come out here and fix this. Well, they told me they were going to send somebody out. They had a guy down the road or something. But here we are about a week or so into this, after that storm, and they ain't ever come out and fix it. So I was like, all right, I guess they're still busy, you know. Well, it was a few days after that, I'm sorry. A few days after that, I figured they were still busy. So I was like, all right, well, I still got power. Be fine. Well, sure enough, the second ice storm that come through knocked out that line underneath it. And I can't understand why, but here it is right here. It knocked it on out, and you can see where I drove it over the tractor and everything. But sure enough, it knocked that line out. And they told me it was a grinding line or something. But when they come out here and took a look at it, they didn't do anything then. I don't know why, but so they I call them. I was like, hey, I got a line down in my field. I need somebody to come out here and fix this. And they're like, okay, well, they did the same story. It's like, all right, there's a guy down the road, and he'll be there sometime in the next day or two. Come fix it. This was Thursday. I was like, okay. Saturday, well, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you know, ain't nobody come out. So I was like, all right, well, it really ain't no problem to me at this time, I guess. I'm gonna wait a little bit, and tomorrow I'm gonna call them and see if they can't get out here. Because if they don't get out here, then I'm gonna take them to court or something. Because this is a joke. They gotten everybody's power restored. They should have at least a trucker or one guy or something to come out here and fix my line. So, but hopefully they can come out here tomorrow. I gotta call them later on or tomorrow or something. Get somebody out here to fix this mess. So, but just because of that down power line, I had to move them animals, and it really messed them all up, unfortunately. And I'm counting now, I've lost 16 of them. And if you don't know anything about keeping animals and stuff, 16 is a pretty good high amount of number for an animal, deaf population that is. And I lost about 16 of them. And man, it breaks my heart just to sit there and say that. You know, most of them were little lambs and stuff, but I had quite a few of them that were, you know, a year or two old. They were mostly ewes that died. I have a problem with the females. The females, they die more than the males. So, but as you can see, my goats are out apparently over there across the road eating soybean residue out Mr. Kennedy's field. Yeah, I gotta fix that. But so, you know, it's just, I guess it is what it is. Not much you can do. You know, I did all I could to try to, you know, make sure these animals were in safety, and I think I probably did more harm than good. So I guess they probably would have done better if, you know, I would have left them in there. But then they probably would have gotten, you know, shocked to death or fried, which I didn't want them to do, but I don't know. You never can tell. It's a 50-50 situation. Not only you're out here dealing with Mother Nature and everything, but you're also dealing with unpredictable circumstances. It's not like a crop, you know, it's more of animals. No telling what they can do. But so ended up losing 16 so far. If you add the ones up to the beginning, that's another 10. So I ended up losing about 26 animals so far, and I usually sell about 25 a year, making about 10 to 15,000 off of them, somewhere around there anyway. And when you think about them animals that died, that's about almost $10,000 that I've lost so far just because of this storm. And I 100% believe this will probably go down as the worst storm that has ever affected these animals and affected the farm. You know, only thing you can do is pray. So it's starting to get a little warmer out. I'm out here in a t-shirt, 60 degrees out here today, and I'm looking out these fields and they're looking real nice and green. And my video is about to end, so I'll see you guys later.